Hi everybody, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be giving you a primer to how the ancient medicine of essential oils can hack the modern brain's biochemistry. And I'm going to specifically focus on exploring our brain signals today. Now, in my previous videos and posts, I explored how the amazing antioxidant N-acetylcysteine, or NAC, has more impressive applications than its most celebrated roles, which are a cellular defender against oxidative stress and a liver reviver from acetaminophen, aka Tylenol overdose. What most intrigued me about this very popular supplement was its brain applications in those with complex psychiatric disorders. So I was diving deep into NAC's mechanisms, and it made me curious to research more specifically on how essential oils work to influence brain functioning through brain signaling, aka neurotransmitters. I wanted to use the opportunity to converge all my previous work on how essential oils can balance our brain signals and support our mood, neurological, and mental health, and even change addictive patterns. And I've written all about these subjects in the past. In an upcoming article, I will review the concept of mind-body medicine of all my years of writings on how essential oils are truly a holistic, fully integrative intervention. Beyond the psychological effects, they impact all areas of health: physical, emotional, spiritual, relational, and physiological. This is because they have multifactorial effects, meaning they can affect more than one thing simultaneously. So as you're inhaling the aroma of an essential oil and feeling calm, the volatile constituents, for example, are also communicating inside of your cells and also affecting different neurotransmitters in your brain, which is pretty cool because this will have a physiological or body response as it's calming your brain. So it'll be a soon-to-be released overview of depending on when it gets published. But I'll provide an explanation on how they uplift your mood through their aromatic molecules, enhance our memory, support various organ systems, promote bonding, enhance positive habits, and change negative thought patterns and beliefs. All of these related to our overall wellness. I will make sure to give you a link and even probably do a quick video on that when it is coming out. Now I want to focus more specifically and kind of getting to the nitty-gritty, not so easy subject of neurotransmitters, but I want to make it easy for you guys. And it's going to be a kind of Biochem 101 lesson to start. This is so that you're primed with the understanding, so that when I summarize various research reviews and trials on how essential oils specifically modulate these brain chemicals and how this translates into supporting mental health, you'll have a better understanding of just exactly what they're doing, and maybe even be able to contrast and compare and use this language of biochemistry that is more comfortable and common with maybe some of your more conventional healthcare providers, be able to use that language and see how it can support your current healthcare regime with the either the medications or the other supplements that you're using, because you always want to check with your doctor before you make any changes if you're on a specific medication or healthcare regime, right? All right, so before we get started more on exploring how essential oils hack our brain signals, we need to first understand what the heck neurotransmitters are and what they do. So get on your little propeller hats. It's a Biochem 101 review. Now, don't worry if even the mention of the chemistry periodic table of elements makes your breathing get shallower. It's okay. Take a sniff of lavender, relax, pull up a cozy chair. I'm keeping this low-key. I have no intention, I promise you, of exciting your glutamate receptors through enhanced NMDA signaling and causing the release of nitric oxide. Okay, I was just kidding on that. And if you don't appreciate a little geek humor, then my apologies. All right, what are neurotransmitters? I found a great explanation, and I posted it on my blog, which again will be provided if you are on YouTube, where you can get access to all the references and resources, from the Queensland Brain Institute of Australia. And it stated a whole explanation about how these chemical messengers transmit their information across nerve cells, also called neurons. So from now on, when you want to impress your friends, if they're talking about nerve cells, you can say, oh, you mean neurons. So neurotransmitters are often referred to as the body's chemical messengers. They're molecules used by the nervous system to transmit messages between neurons or from neurons to muscles. And there's communication that occurs in between the neurons, and electrical signals travel along their little axons, and they're converted into chemical ones, and this causes the release of neurotransmitters. You don't have to understand all the intrinsic details of that, but basically they're taking an electrical signal and turning it into a chemical signal, and it's turning into a neurotransmitter, and it's going throughout your body to make changes. And it can influence the other nerve cell in more than one way, 3 ways. It can either excite it, making more of a response, inhibit it, causing it to shut down, or modulate it, depending on what the body needs at the time. It's one of my favorite words, right? Because I always say essential oils are modulators, because they're able to kind of act at our receptor sites in a way that our body needs at the time, and nobody fully understands exactly how they do it, although I try digging deep into the discovery of what's already been in the research with that. So most neurotransmitters are either they're small amine molecules. If you hear that word, that's like an ammonia molecule that's a little bit chemically different and altered. They can be amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins, or they can be neuropeptides. And neuropeptides are basically protein-like substances produced and released by neurons. So those are the 3 types, and they're involved in interactions and countless functions of the nervous system. So here's the bottom line. Neurotransmitters are signaling molecules that communicate to either excite, inhibit, or modulate a response between neurons. And the effects are numerous. They can be either local, meaning at that certain area between the 2 nerve cells, or systemic throughout the whole body. Do we got that? I hope so. Okay. So decoding our body's chemicals. I wanted to provide you guys with a greater depth of understanding of this, and I also didn't want to make you panic. So I came up with a little makeshift Neurotransitpedia by Dr. Sarah, copyright 2019. So here are some of the most common neurotransmitters that are spoken about in the literature, and probably what your doctors, if you're using something to support your mental health, are aware of as to how that specific medication modulates these different little chemical signals. So the first one was acetylcholine, and let's have a little nostalgic for acetylcholine because it was the first discovered neurotransmitter. So it's the oldest of the bunch. And it's found in neuromuscular junctions. That's another good Scrabble word. That's between neurons and muscles, and it's linked to memory. So you'll often hear of acetylcholinesterase inhibitors. That's basically the enzyme that breaks down acetylcholine. It's inhibiting that so that someone has more acetylcholine so they can remember things better. Aspartate is an amino acid, and it's been studied to have anti-fatigue effects, neural support, and immune actions. So sometimes an action, this amino acid can have an effect on the brain with its anti-fatigue effects. It's considered a form of chemical signaling. Dopamine is linked to motivation and reward and purposeful movements, and its effects are beyond the neurological system, but a lot of times people with Parkinson's may take things that affect dopamine production. There's Gaba. if you really want to be fancy. It's gamma-aminobutyric acid, and then glycine, and these two together are the main inhibitory neurotransmitters. So they basically stop overexcitation in the body. Now, GABA contributes to motor control, vision, and other brain functions, and low levels are linked to anxiety. So with every movement and excitation, you want to be able to kind of inhibit that or slow it down, or else you'll be constantly reaching for something and, for example, never being able to pull your arm back. You want to be able to have both of those actions. Histamine is an amine, so we know it's a derivative of ammonia, extra credit if you caught that has many different systemic effects. So histamine is actually important for immune function, digestion, modulating hormones, and brain signaling. Now, a lot of times people will take an antihistamine, right? We all know what we feel like when we have a cold. We have brain fog and inflammation and just feel lousy. But histamine serves as a function, as a neurotransmitter, and just go outside if you're allergic to something and start sneezing, and you will believe me that histamine affects your brain. One of the kind of trends right now, and it's also a true medical condition, is people with histamine intolerance. They might lack an enzyme in the body called DAO in the intestines that helps you break down histamine, or they may not have a problem with methylation, which also helps your body rid with histamine and many other factors. So that's histamine. So we have acetylcholine, aspartate, dopamine, GABA, glycine, our inhibitors, glutamate. I skipped over it. That's the main excitatory transmitter in the central nervous system. It's also associated with learning and memory. So you have to have this balance. We talked about histamine, and then noradrenaline, aka norepinephrine, depending on where you're located in the world, US, UK. It's primarily a stimulant signal of the sympathetic nervous system, and it has systemic effects. So we think of the fight or flight response, right, when somebody gets anxious or they're running from a saber-toothed tiger, their body's going to produce a lot of noradrenaline, norepinephrine, in order to help the body move quickly. Simultaneously, as you're running from the saber-toothed tiger, you're not going to stop and eat a big old steak and cuddle with your loved one. So this will decrease the rest and digest assimilation processes. So someone that's in constant stress, even if the tiger isn't really there, but the brain is telling the body that the tiger's there, will have a lot of hard time with handling, maybe processing different foods and have some food sensitivity issues, etc., etc. So yes, people, you can actually have chronic food, quote, sensitivities because of what's going on in your brain. NMDA, or N-methyl D-aspartate, is associated with memory and learning, and it's linked to glutamate. And it's also, if it's not functioning well, it can cause oxidative stress, and it's been associated to Alzheimer's disease. Serotonin, probably the most popular, and one of the most altered brain neurotransmitter by medication. Common serotonin selective reuptake inhibitors. There's also norepinephrine, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, but it's got a wide array of functions: mood, memory, digestion, sleep, pain, appetite, more. A little fun fact is the gut actually makes more serotonin than the brain. So if somebody has chronic gut issues, it's very likely they'll have some mood issues. It's the gut-brain connection. And then taurine is an honorable mention, is an amino acid. It has multiple roles in the brain and nervous system, and it's been studied for heart health, blood sugar, endurance, energy, and more. And I have a link for professionals, or for the more curious, if they want to learn more about neurotransmission for professionals, through a Merck manual. Now, essential oils on the brain, chemistry. Let's start just the introduction. So I've already kind of mentioned that they're shown clinically to influence the mood, and it isn't just the aroma, that they actually have these volatile compounds that can influence neurotransmitter release. I found an amazing 2018 review article that you could spend just hours reviewing for kicks and giggles. Guilty. The pharmacological properties of essential oils and their compounds are explored, as well as their mechanisms of action. So basically, it's a whole hodgepodge of biochemical soup and what they do, what the essential oils do, what the constituents do, how that affects neurotransmitters. Taking basically like Petri dish studies, rodent studies, and associating them with clinical trials on effects, EEGs, all that fun stuff we're going to go over in upcoming articles, which is pretty fun. So make sure we stay tuned. And just as a reminder, I know that there's no one intervention that can be a cure-all, and that just by manipulating neurotransmitters, in no way am I suggesting that that is going to overall help somebody's mental health. They could have a functional neurological issue where parts of their brain are over or under functioning, and they actually need to do specific exercise to get that brain and those neurons firing. The concept of neuroplasticity, sorry, I'm getting a little geeky here. But basically the point is that biochemistry is one part of the process of a healthy brain. You have the physical aspect, you have the chemical aspect of the brain, and then you have the emotional aspect of the brain. I believe that's something heard by Dr. Titus Chain. So all of these are important to look at. But my hope is that most conventional docs are speaking biochemistry language, and integrative docs, alternative care practitioners, all have been mostly aware of biochemistry. So if we can all speak the same language, maybe we can unite as a team, and you guys, patients and clients, will feel more comfortable bringing up how to integrate more of these natural products and assist with this really widespread stigmatizing area of healthcare that I think is underappreciated and undertreated. And a lot of people do still have residual problems after taking even properly prescribed medication. So hopefully we can work to alleviate some of the suffering together. Okay? So stay tuned for some upcoming articles. I hope your brain isn't overflowing and that I did a good job of keeping it simple. And I will talk to you soon. Have a great day, everybody.